Welcome. I'm Rachel Howard, Digital Initiatives Librarian at the University of Louisville in Louisville, Kentucky. I'll be joined by Reid Boehm and Ben Parnin of Purdue University and Danielle Taylor of Indiana University, Bloomington. As we navigate these uncertain times, we're developing a new private locks network, PLN, for the greater Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio region. It's been slowly taking root since the MetaArchive decided in spring 2024 to sunset within a year. The MetaArchive Cooperative was a digital preservation network created and hosted by and for memory organizations. Its roots go back over 20 years and grew from other initiatives. The LOCKS program, Lots of Copies Keep Stuff Safe, was established at Stanford University in 1999 with the goal of preserving electronic journals. They're still going strong, so here's their updated logo. Congress appropriated funding for NDIP, the National Digital Information Infrastructure and Preservation Program, in 2000, and the Library of Congress disseminated it via grants. NDIP was the precursor to NDSA. At an ARL Exposing Hidden Collections conference in 2003, conversations among archivists and special collections librarians led to the idea to apply for NDIP funding to collaborate on distributed digital preservation of cultural heritage materials using locks. The NDIP grant, which was successful and renewable for several years, provided servers, temporary staffing, and travel funding to the 6 founding partners depicted in this primitive graphic. We worked with the Library of Congress and the LOCKS program to set up the technical and governance infrastructure to preserve one another's digital cultural heritage relating to the Southeast, the region where we were all located. It planted the seeds for the MetaArchive Cooperative to accept new members for renewable 3-year periods beginning in 2007. Key characteristics of the MetaArchive, which are shared by GINKONet, include community-based. Software and hardware assets are owned by members. Affordable. Costs are distributed across the membership with minimal overhead. Transparent. Uses open-source locks-based system for distributing copies of replicated content in secure distributed locations over time. Supportive. Self-governed by members with opportunities for membership engagement. Diverse. Geographically distributed with a variety of institution types represented. With the MetaArchive's growth emerged the need for a fiscal manager, so we established the Educopia Institute, which itself expanded to serve other communities and needs. By 2019, internal and external factors, including changes in leadership and staffing at member institutions and changes in library and campus server infrastructures, as well as limits to our governance model, prompted the onset of a series of intentional changes, ultimately resulting in the decision to sunset the cooperative, with the LOCKS program temporarily managing our preserved content via the Dandelion Archive. Meanwhile, new networks, now known as private locks networks or PLNs, had modeled themselves on the MetaArchive, and GINKONet is using them as models for our regional PLN. ADPNet was inspired by Auburn University's experience with the MetaArchive. It is administered through a state commission and requires in-kind contributions rather than dues. MDPN, which you'll hear more about in Chelsea Denault's presentation, is a member-centered collaborative organization dedicated to preserving Michigan's digital cultural memory materials and leveraging shared resources to make digital preservation accessible to all institutions. IndiePres was founded in 2016 to assist small to mid-sized cultural memory organizations with the long-term preservation of digital content. IndiePres is a community-based organization governed by its members who share in the expense of secure, geographically distributed storage.
The first discussions of a potential regional network started in late spring 2024, when MetaArchive made the final decision to sunset and institutions began to make plans for future PLN solutions. Initial conversations between IndiePres and Purdue swiftly grew into a larger regional idea, the majority of us being MetaArchive members, though there was and still is interest from other institutions in the region who do see the importance of establishing a network among our 3 states. Hence the name GINKO, or Greater Indiana, Kentucky, and Ohio. The institutions listed here make up 3 of the 4 branches of our developing tree. Our 4th and very strong branch is the LOCKS program. They're a consistent and critical component of the work, helping the network to get structured and all of our institutions up and running while planning and documenting as we go. As you can see, we are made up of many different types of institutions, from consortia to private universities and state universities of different scale and focus. The digital content we preserve at each institution is unique, and all of us work in different roles and have different skill sets. The diversity brings strong contributions in many areas, while at the same time we are navigating the complexity of structuring ourselves and reaching sustainability. Plotting a timeline of progressive growth with this graphic, there are details and activities under each of the 5 stages that we've identified and will continue to shape in greater depth as we move forward. When the sunset happened, we weren't sure if this was going to be a feasible possibility, but we started having conversations with other PLNs, such as ADPNet and MDPN that Rachel mentioned, and assessing what we had. We were meeting with the LOCKS team to ask questions and to learn about what we needed to do. Writing grant proposals allowed us to define our mission and our goals. Ultimately, we would like to establish a community-led regional PLN that supports digital preservation needs of diverse institutions, from our small county public libraries to large universities in the tri-state region and potentially beyond. Our applications coincided with the large changes in the federal funding landscape. It means we are planning on a shoestring budget, though the silver lining is that we've learned early on how to set up and sustain ourselves by ourselves. The spring and summer we've spent taking stock of our resources, making sure we have enough server nodes, identifying gaps, and I'd say most importantly, we're learning how to work together. And I think one of our biggest challenges was initially, where do we start? Now we are moving forward with a pilot this winter and into spring. First, integrating the server nodes with LOCKS 2.0 and establishing connections, and then testing the archival packaging and ingest process. At the same time, we'll be defining a workflow and community standards for several aspects of the processes. For example, we do need clear file naming conventions and methods for documentation and assessment. As you might imagine, part of the organization stage is baked into the pilot. To separate these actions would ignore a major part of the learning and development process. We are establishing different groups that will be working on governance and community building, outreach, and training. Moving towards the final stage and reaching our mission, it is critical that we establish clear, accessible documentation and seek new members and have clearly defined pathways to onboard and integrate these new members. And as we saw over the past year, a major part of our ability to thrive is to establish ways to evaluate and manage the changes, both internal and external, as new challenges arise.
As Reid outlined in the previous slide, coming together to solve this problem has planted the seeds to grow. But these areas of growth do present challenges in order for this project to become sustainable. First and foremost, funding has been a hindrance to the growth potential we would like to see. We had originally planned to submit a grant to the IMLS to hire a project director in hopes that we could mirror the success of MDPN. But cuts to the IMLS prevented that idea from even taking root. Indiana experienced severe budget cuts, including the loss of jobs from key stakeholders and advocates at the state level to help guide IndyPres. State universities like Indiana University also have had to severely cut back normal operations, putting partnerships into jeopardy. So without funding, that leads us to figure out the roles and responsibilities on our own. Who will guide governance and documentation? For IndyPres members, who will decide and take in membership fees? How will we do this without a project manager? As Reid mentioned in our piloting phase for this fall, we've encountered issues related to the equipment. We've had to be creative by using previous LOCKS machines and decommissioned servers to allow us to pilot and just hope for the best in the future. And lastly, as we enter our pilot phase, we have had to ask questions on the needs for those involved. Are they right administrators on board? Who from IT at our various institutions need to be in meetings? Who can help with ingest regarding content selection, metadata, SIP creation, and more? What additional training do our project partners need? While these challenges may seem to hinder growth, I will now turn it over to Ben Parnin at Purdue to discuss our plans to become sustainable despite these challenges so that we can continue to see growth.
In 2024, two PLNs, MetaArchive and Westfold, were dissolved. Many other organizations are now facing similar predicaments, and the recent cutbacks from federal and state funding agencies has exacerbated the issue. As a result of our current environment and past experiences, sustainability is a guiding principle for the GINKONet project. To address these issues, we have to recognize that we can't simply copy and paste past PLN models. Instead, we have to figure out the needs of our community and how to transform them into a sustainable organization. One way we are working to accomplish this is by having a simplistic administrative model. So unlike other PLNs and organizations, we will not have a community facilitator. This is an effort to reduce costs and allow us to weather future fiscal storms. Instead, we will rely on the sweat equity of our membership and by having a clear and responsive government to address issues when they arise. We are also working to minimize our technical overhead. So as mentioned before, we are using Dart as a standardized ingest platform for our network. Using Dart, which is managed by AP Trust and used by many other organizations, including MDPN, will reduce the technical burden on our membership by allowing them not to create their own localized ingest platform and instead rely on a software that is widely utilized and widely supported. We are also partnering with the LOGS program, who will oversee the overall technical management of the network. All of these choices will reduce the technical burden on our members who have little or no technical expertise. And lastly, we're working to collaborate with the greater LOGS community, both on sharing resources and experiences, with the idea that, together we can help support each other through difficult times. And the LOGS program has recently sort of stepped up and started offering more services to facilitate this, both by creating recurring meetings between the various PLNs and also sort of acting as a hub for different resources and consulting and consultation. So all these things, we sort of like pooling our resources and coming together as a community. I think we can address some of these sustainability issues that has, plagued some past PLNs. And so if you would like to learn more about the GINKONet project, you can contact us individually or learn more about the project on our website. Thank you for attending this presentation.